Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic run by a fantastic runner coming up here, which is Boktai 2 Solo Boy Django. This is one of my favorite runs to watch as of late over on Drakodan's Twitch page. So, we are joined by Stalinite as well, friend of the show, who opened Syothon. And without further ado, I'll leave it to you two. Take it away.
Yo, thank you very much, Syo. What is up, guys? I am Draco. This is going to be Boktai 2. If you're not familiar with this game series, I will try and fill you in as we go along. I've got Stalinite with me. Please say hello.
Howdy, howdy. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad that you're here as well. And we're a little behind, so I'm not going to hang around. Just going to get started in 3, 2, 1, go. I am using my splits on my end, just because any run that actually gets out of early game in good fashion honestly does have a solid chance to be a PB, so you never know. We'll see how it goes. And I'll try really, really hard. So yeah, if you're not familiar with this game series, you will find very quickly that this is a very unique run, since Boktai is the only series on the Game Boy Advance where the physical GBA cartridges have solar panels installed on them, and you use real UV energy to play these games. Like, you play a vampire hunter, the titular Solar Boy Django, and you use the power of the sun to vanquish the hordes of the undead. And as soon as we start the game and get a couple of minutes in, we're going to lose our solar gun, which, you know, has the magic solar powers, and we're going to spend the entire game trying to get it back, and then not actually use it at all. And instead, we're going to use a bunch of physical weapons that are imbued with elemental properties to take care of the undead instead. And yeah, this is where it's going to happen. We find this vampire. It's going to attack us, steal the gun, and our, like, guardian sun avatar here, the sunflower Otenko, is like, it doesn't matter because only the solar child lineage can use the solar gun, so the vampire can't use it. Then the vampire uses it, and you get owned, and runs away. And this is like the main subplot of the game, trying to get the solar gun back. But as I say, it sucks. We're never actually going to use it. As far as the gameplay goes in Boktai 2, this plays most similarly to a fusion of Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid, I would say. I don't know if you think that's a fair description, so...
I would say so, and it definitely is a very good way of sort of bridging one of the designer's gaps, because Hideo Kojima was involved with the creation of the Boktai games.
Mm-hmm. This game has some very strange mechanical quirks that are more expected when you know that Kojima was involved with the development of this game. Like, there are some very unorthodox mechanics that will be used throughout this run, for sure. So we're going to just get through a couple of screens before coming into the first trap, where Django's going to get trapped in a room with a skeleton, and if you try to fight the skeleton with your bare hands, Otenko's just like, dude, that is not going to work. You need at least a weapon. You can't fight the undead with your bare hands. So we're going to instead go to this adjoining room and find a sword in this chest, which Otenko is like, I guess that's better than nothing. You can at least fight this skeleton now. And now I'm going to do... So this is vintage stealth action. Check this out. Yeah, that seems reasonable in a stealth game. Just go right in front of it and it turns around and doesn't see you at any point. Seems legit. So the enemy vision in this game is, like, for the most part, enemies, like, do see you when they're supposed to, but there's really weird, like, tile-based interactions you can do where, like, as enemies are turning around while you're, like, transitioning between a tile, they won't see you at very specific times like that. That's one of the only times that I deliberately go for a trick like that in the run, though. I'm gonna deliberately get seen by this zombie and hit it 3 times for 0 damage in order to trigger the Sunflower Girl, Zazie here, coming along. And once again, berating Django, being like, dude, this is not gonna work. You need better tools, so let me hook you up. So we get this glove here, the Sol device, which is gonna allow Django to imbue his weapons with elemental enchantments. Don't have any right now, so Zazie hooks Django up even further with Element Sol. So now we can finally use the power of the sun in our physical weapon. So we're going to go from doing 0 damage to this zombie to being able to 3-shot it, and I'm going to do some menuing once I gain control here. Switch the tech speed to fast and unequip my body armor so that I can move faster. Movement speed in this game is actually very dynamic. Like, you have the movement speed that you start the game at, and that's one of 8 movement speed values. in this game. Your movement speed is simply treated as a product of your agility stat minus your weight stat. So like TLDR, the heavier your armor is, the slower you will move. So for the most of this run, I will be going with no armor at all to maximize speed. And this of course means that you're pretty frail. Like this is the, you know, quote-unquote Dark Souls model of you can turn yourself into a glass cannon build where you move really fast and hit really fast, but you also need to play extremely well and not take accidental hits, because by the time you get into like mid-game and getting like towards end-game, you will be lucky by endgame if you can survive getting hit by enemies at all. Like, some enemies you can survive a hit from, and others you just can't. And by the time I'm in mid-game, it's like most things will threaten a 2-hit kill on me. So you really need to play very accurately and understand how to deal with enemies and know where all the patrols are, stuff like that, so that you just don't take accidental damage. Of course, boss fights are a similar affair where you just need to play very consistently well. So we're going to get our second elemental enchant here, Flame, and I'm also going to turn the light on for the first time after we get this little exposition dump where we're essentially being told to go up to the cathedral where there's a bunch of undead activity and find out what's going on. So, going to finally turn the sun on. So, I'm not outdoors, I don't have access to real sunlight, but I do have access to this UV flashlight that's on my desk, which is emitting real UV energy. That is what the solar panel detects. Specifically, it depicts UVA radiation, where like ultraviolet is divided into like 3 distinct bands, like UVA, UVB, and UVC, where like if you're a physics nerd, you'll know that's based on like the wavelength of the light. And the solar panel is built to react to what is like most closely correlated to natural sunlight, which is about 400 nanometers-ish. Gonna kill 2 ghouls here while getting back hits to kill them quicker and get a level up so that I can put my stats up. Increasing my agility to 17 lets me move slightly faster again, and I put the remaining stat point into strength. So the 4 primary stats you have in this run are Vitality, which increases your HP, Spirit, which increases your energy, which is effectively your mana or MP. You have Strength, which increases your physical attack, and Agility, which increases your movement speed and your physical defense. Movement speed is only increased when agility reaches certain breakpoints, so I was waiting for that level up to increase agility to 17, because it doesn't matter if I increase agility to anything below 17, I would not get the speed up until I actually reach 17. Gonna do some block pushing here before I get to my second main weapon type, the hammer. There are swords, hammers, and spears in this game. Sword is going to be the primary combat weapon type, while hammers and spears are going to be used for combat solving more than anything else. Combat? No, puzzle solving, more than anything else. It's swords that you use for combat solving, and the others are used for puzzle solving. Yeah, you solve the combats with the sword, like that. I'm also dynamically having control over whether I want the cartridge exposed to sunlight in different rooms. For the most part, whenever I'm going to be in an outdoors screen where there are undead enemies that I want to kill for experience, you cannot have the sun exposed during those times because the undead die in direct contact to sunlight, and if they die to environmental damage, you do not get the experience for killing them. And EXP is rooted extremely strictly in this game. Like, I am using a very lean EXP route, which assumes that I will make no mistakes in EXP acquisition, and that will allow me to get by with the minimum number of level ups acquired at the last possible opportunities to enable me to do fast strats for different fights. Getting down into the basement here, gonna need to solve a couple of puzzles and kill a few enemies as I'm going through here. Some of these kills, like this room here, these kills are simple, but starting from the next room, these kills are not trivial, so I am gonna focus here. Okay, good start. Now this room is random, where the bats are going to be located on the wall. Okay, that was bad, but at least I did not get seen by the ghouls. Whatever. I'd rather not have taken damage there, but whatever. Also knocking on the wall here to distract this zombie and lure it away from the wall. You can slide past the zombie on the corner, but it's effectively random whether you'll contact it if you do that, because whenever you're moving in this game, the game effectively decides whether you're going to move by 1 pixel or 2 pixels on a given frame. And on the frame that you round the corner, if the game decides to displace you towards the zombie by 2 pixels, you simply contact it, and then the door locks and you have to deal with a very strong enemy. It's just not a good time, so it's well worth the 1 second trade-off to just knock on the wall and lure it away from the door, in my opinion. It's a lot more consistent. So also using the flame element here to light these torches. So in a run, this just looks like you just go through and it's no problem. Casually, these are puzzles that you need to solve pretty quickly. You do have a limited amount of time to light all those torches. It's just in a speedrun, you just go through and it looks perfectly natural the way that you do it. But it is actually pretty easy to run out of time on those in a casual setting. So finally gonna get inside the cathedral here and gonna come into the first big trap of the run where there are so many different ways that you can dispatch the enemies inside this trap, and obviously some methods are gonna be faster or slower than others. So all of these traps, they're effectively mini puzzles in terms of it's about figuring out the fastest way to deal with the enemies inside the trap. This method that I'm going to use is very technically demanding, but it is also significantly faster than getting these enemies individually. So this is another thing that I'm going to really hard focus on, because this is extremely easy to miss. Yeah, so knocking on that specific point of the wall lures the skeleton from all the way at the top of the room, and then I can cleave those 2 skeletons down together after dispatching the one that's to the south side of the room. That is a lot harder than it looks though, because you only have a short frame window for hitting both of those skeletons as they're in that position, so that you can actually get back hits and stun them and force them both to turn around in a specific way. That is a lot more technical than it looks. Doing a wall knock here to lure this ghoul onto the floor panel so I can get upstairs. Also put in some stat points before, because I'm going to need some firepower for an upcoming trap. Do some block pushing and some torch lighting. Got to make sure to not break that leftmost block, since I need to push it into the floor to progress here. And same with this one, I need to push this so I can get a key from this chest. And I'm going to be coming up here in a couple of rooms' time to the first major RNG manipulation of the run. This is a very RNG heavy game, and we do have some manips to make stuff faster and more consistent, but getting this manip here requires me to play completely perfectly once I do a soft reset to reset the RNG to a static value. And I'm going to come into a trap with a couple of ghouls and a zombie, and I need to execute everything completely perfectly in order to manipulate a rare drop. Enemies in this game have a common drop table and a rare drop table, where common drops are a 10.8% chance and rare drops are a 1.2% chance. I need to get the rare drop off the single zombie in this trap, which has a sword upgrade. It's the only opportunity I'll get to get this weapon before the next boss, and once I get inside the trap, I need to play every action perfectly to control the rate that the RNG advances at. So this is absolutely hard focus time here as soon as I get in-game. The RNG isn't progressing yet, but once I actually get in-game and trigger the trap, all the actions that I take and all the actions the enemies take will advance RNG at different rates. There we go. Whew, I was actually feeling really nervous about that. Even if you execute everything perfectly there, sometimes the zombie can just see you as you get towards it, which is an instant fail for the manip, and you need to soft reset the game again and go again. And every time you fail that, it costs a minute. Oh, you dickhead. Okay, that's fine, but I really would rather not that he faced the wrong way there. Yeah, the game does not care about whether you're physically behind an enemy in terms of getting back hits. It only really checks for which direction you are facing relative to the direction the enemy is facing, which means you can get some really funky looking back hits as far as the game logic is concerned. using a movement buffer here where I'm going to do that torchlight in a specific spot so I can time walking across the trapdoor as it closes, so I can take a little mini shortcut. And now as I go through a previous room here, I'm going to want to get outside, but I'm also going to need to check like 18 different spots in my peripheral vision looking for a glint. Play along at home, see if you can see the red crystal. Well, I didn't see it, so if someone in the chat actually did see a little glint in one of those skylights, then they are a better runner than me. Which means you can actually get world record in this game. So, I'm going to come outside here and going to destroy a couple of statues outside the main entrance to reveal a chest, which is going to get one of the coloured crystals. Like, the main gimmick of this dungeon is we saw we need to go downstairs into the basement, but the floor mural disappears, and we need to get these coloured crystals and place them in certain spots to reveal the floor mural, which reveals the staircase. And I'm going to go back into that previous room with all the skylights. This is the last time that I'm going to be inside that room, so I must find the crystal that's in one of the skylights before I leave the next room. So there are some spots that are definitely better than others. I'm just praying that I'm going to get a spot which does not require me to do extra movement, but it is completely random where the chest appears here. It's not RNG, but it is random. And I was not blessed with a good spot. Thanks, game. There it is. So that's pretty unfortunate, but sometimes that does. Can't really do anything about it. I say that it's random without being RNG because the game is simply using a frame counter to determine where the chest is going to be there. Like, there's 18 different skylights, so effectively every 18 frames, it is cycling between all of the different spots in memory, and then just the frame that you enter the room, it simply deposits it at the current spot in memory. So it is completely unpredictable, and it's not something that a human can actually accurately control, but it is not technically controlled by the random number generator, which is why I don't use the term RNG to describe that. Like, for this game, it is an important distinction that certain events are tied to the frame counter and not the RNG2 index. And so if you are trying to do routing and you're like, oh, why can't I RNG manipulate this thing? Like, if you're trying to RNG manip something that is not tied to the RNG, then yeah, you're going to have problems trying to route that. So it is an important distinction to make, in my opinion. Like, I'm a bit mad that that's not something we can actually reasonably human manipulate, since it's not tied to the RNG. It would be really nice if we could manipulate that, but oh well, can't win everything. We're going to just light all these torches with spear and flame as we're going through. Whenever you're above an abyss like this, there are no guardrails or invisible walls on platforms. Like, you can just fall off any platform or cliff like that and you instantly die. And dying in this run can be particularly punishing because in order to continue in this game, you need to spend currency. And you don't exactly have a lot of spare currency in this run, so if you are a beginner learning the game, there is honestly a very steep learning curve for just being able to execute and finish runs, because if you are dying constantly, you just don't have the funds to afford what you need to continue with the route. This is a really punishing game to learn, honestly. But it is very rewarding once you get used to it and are able to string sections together and execute stuff very well. Yes, as Rafi in the chat says, dying does cost a significant amount of cash. I am monitoring the chat for this run, so any questions anyone has or any comments you want to make about the run, do feel free to ask. I do welcome it. Just don't say anything mean about me because I will see it and I'll be sad. Rafi also is a very good runner of this game. Please do consider giving Rafi a follow if you still wish. And then Rafi will just need to actually come back and start doing runs of this game again. The fans demand it, dude.
The people have spoken.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've spoken.
I'll throw my hat into the ring as well.
There you go. Alright, we got two. Alright, that's two people telling Rafi to come do runs again.
I too will
alright,
bravely speak up and request
awesome.
Rafi comes back.
Hell yeah. This is what we call tyranny by majority. The system works. At the very least, just submit your actual PB, please. Because I know the 157 on the leaderboards is not your actual PB. Okay, so I am 5 seconds behind my PB. This is terrible. I should reset. Like, this is such a bad deficit. No, I don't think your 155 is on the leaderboard right now. Disgraceful. Okay, turning the light off because I'm not going to need it for a while, and if I don't strictly need the light, I don't just leave it on. Like, it's a legitimate safety measure. Like, the light itself obviously runs quite hot the longer you leave it on, and it is a source of real UV, so you do want to limit your exposure to it in real life terms. Like, please do practice good safety standards when running a game like this that can actually impact your physical health. It is a legitimate concern. Also, this is one of the most technical fights in the run, and I'm going to focus. Okay, so that fight is infinitely harder than I just made it look there. The window for doing a spear thrust that lights all 4 of those central candles so that you can bait the boss back down to the ground is very narrow. You don't have more than like I want to say like a 3 or 4 pixel window to get those central thrusts. And you're constantly moving out of position to attack the boss with a different weapon, back into position to relight the candles. The only way I'm able to consistently do that is by buffering all of my direction changes with the weapon animations. Like, every time I'm moving strictly along that Y-axis, I'm going from, like, down left to up right on the D-pad in the time that I'm starting to swing my weapon, so that I can make sure that I don't accidentally move in a different direction. Because while you're in the middle of a weapon swing, you can't physically move. You can turn Django around, but you can't actually move to a different position while you're attacking with a weapon. So by using all of the direction buffers with weapon swings, I'm able to move only along the Y-axis and not along the X-axis. Like, if that wasn't possible, it would be borderline impossible to do that fast strat on that fight, because as I say, it's a very narrow window for being able to get those perfect thrusts to maintain the stun lock on the boss, because if the candles in the center aren't lit, then the boss is freely flying around and attacking you and dropping ads, which really harass you and cause problems in the fight. The fight can really snowball out of control. And as you can see, my energy is also really low now, so that's also a strat that demands that you don't really make mistakes while you're doing that and wasting energy from missing thrust. Otherwise, you can end up with not really enough energy to actually do the fast strat for the fight. And we're now dragging the coffin back to town. So this is one of those, like, kind of, I guess, weird Kojima-isms, that since you are fighting vampires and they are immortal beings, you can't kill vampires by defeating them, they're immortal. So all you can really do is subdue them and lock them inside the coffin. And now to get rid of them for good, you need to physically drag the coffin all the way back to town and purify them inside what's called the pile driver, which you'll see is like a giant generator with huge mirrors that channel the sunlight into the coffin. So I'm using a couple of power nuts as buffs to allow me to go a lot faster here. It's the temporary buff you see in the top left. Every time you use a power nut, it simulates Django's strength being at like 99 for the purpose of block pushing and coffin dragging for 30 seconds. And using 2 of these buffs gives me enough time to get the coffin back to the pile driver like this. You'll have a very brief moment as I'm dragging it into the center of the pile driver here to see what the normal coffin drag speed is, and you will see that you definitely do not want to do this drag without the power nuts, if at all possible. Like, you go much, much faster with the coffin while you have a power nut on.
Something else that, trivia-wise, also makes this very much a Kojima-ism is the Western roots of this game obviously come from spaghetti Western cinema, down to the name of Django, and dragging the coffin is a direct reference to the 1966 film Django, where the main character drags a coffin with a machine gun in it.
I actually didn't know that detail, but it does make sense, since Kojima is a huge Westerbo for cinema, so that does make
Sure
sense.
Is.
Alright, purification over. So that was really quick. So fun fact, using a artificial UV source like this to spoof the sensor, if you just like go outdoors and try and play this game organically, unless you live somewhere with like dangerous levels of UV radiation, you'll find that you can't really max out the solar sensor as I'm doing here. Like if you're just out on like a pretty clear day, you'll probably struggle to get above like half the sensor filled, like 5 bars or so. And so the game is absolutely not tuned for having access to 10 sun at all times. None of the mechanics assume that the player is able to have maximum sunlight, and that includes mechanics such as purifications where your damage scales with sun level. Later on in the run, I'm going to be able to get speed, which scales with sun level. And even the passive energy regeneration you get in the bank and your energy bar passive regeneration rate, those scale with sun level as well. And just having access to 10 sunlight, you speed up just about every element of this game to a gross degree based on what you would otherwise have access to in casual play. Which is very convenient. I am only 1 second behind my PB right now, by the way. Like I say, any run where you get out of the early game in one piece has a semi-decent chance to be a PB. It's not that my PB is bad, like, in my opinion, it's like far from it, but I'm just running really hot in this game right now and generally playing really well. To the point that, like, since I am on a nice pace here, I am, possibly against my better judgment, going to take a bit of a risk and not take a health refill before I come into the next trap. So this is the second dungeon, and at this point, the first trap that I walk into, if I take a hit at this health, I will die instantly. These purple bats, vampire bats they're called, they will deal over half of my health bar at this point with no body armor on. So if I get hit once I come into this trap, oh god, please get downstairs. Yeah, I will die in one hit here, and I have to dispatch like 7 of these bats that are flying around like pseudo-randomly. Oh, 3 slashes to finish? That was actually exceptional. Wow.
Well done.
That is not very common to be able to get away with just 3 slashes there, since they do move around like randomly, as I said. So, I'm also taking a health refill there while waiting for those yellow slimes to die. I want to ideally wait on those yellow slimes to see if they drop more power nuts that I can use later. Those are common drops, so each enemy corpse is a 10.8% chance to give a power nut, but unfortunately getting nothing of it. And as far as actually being able to do those health refills, this is one of the biggest Kojima-isms of the game. So what you didn't see before I started the run is that you want to run this game with a dry system battery so that the RTC is not functional. So in other words, every time you start up the game, you need to set the system clock. This is very good for the speedrun because if you play on the date of a real-life lunar full moon, as in one that you track with an actual lunar calendar, and if you play at nighttime during the game, and you try and channel the sun while there is no sunlight out on the bar, you instead summon these moon bugs, which you can use to more or less infinitely restore your health. And you can do that like anytime you're outdoors, you can do it as much as you need. So as long as you're playing on real-life full moon dates, you have access to unlimited health refills. And I would go as far as to say that like this run would probably not be reasonably possible if this mechanic was not in the game. Like, it gets very difficult later on and just very punishing. The fact that you can refill your health whenever you need makes certain later sections more reasonable to do, and then once you get into the last dungeon of the game, you don't have access to it anyway. I'm not going to risk another hit there, so I need 4 more hits to deal with this. Okay, my hit rhythm was a little off there, that's fine. Alright, this next trap that I'm coming into with the yellow slimes is fine, but it's the third trap with clay golems that really grinds my gears in this run. These golems are dreadful, they are just the bane of my existence. That's a really nice random drop, by the way. I'm going to knock on the walls to try and force them to roll into each other, but these things do not behave consistently, even though they should. Okay, that's a good first set. Yes, dude! Oh my god, here we go.
Oh, nice.
This is actually a really good start now. like, unironically, I'm still going to be, like, basically matching my PB pace. And that is one of the most critical screens of the run to go well at an early point. You can lose a disgusting amount of time there if you don't get all the kills, because the other problem with that trap is, oh, this is Django's edgy brother, Sasuke, by the way. It's Sabata, really, but I'm just going to call him Sasuke, because it's funny. Yeah, so as the clay golems are rolling around, they damage each other as they are rolling into each other. And as I explained earlier, enemies that die due to environmental damage do not give you the experience. And as I mentioned earlier, experience is very strictly rooted in this game. So if you, like, don't get a clay golem kill there, you need to start improvising and think about where you're going to make up that missing EXP, because it really matters. Such as right now, I'm going to put in my stat points here before pushing this block. I would not have these stat points to allocate if I'd missed any of those kills in the trap. Using a power nut to push these blocks, you've got to just push these blocks onto their respective floor panel color, which, oh, this is pretty trivial, this is a pretty easy one. Like, yeah, this is, like, not too bad as a puzzle. The puzzles in this game look pretty easy, so, I mean, just hold that thought. This puzzle is a little more involved. Use cloud and different weapon types to push the block by different amounts, then freeze it to the floor. Destroy this stone block to get a key. I'm going to go outside. Yeah, if you are a puzzle fan, then Boktai is definitely for you. Like, if you like stealth action gameplay, this game is for you, and if you like puzzle solving, this game is definitely for you as well. Now, normally, this is where I would do a little charge while waiting for these yellow slimes to die, but I've already had a random power nut drop, so I don't need to check for that. I'm good to go for my, like, power nut resources for the rest of the dungeon, which is nice. Gonna disable the sun since I'm back indoors here now. Because I need the sun to be disabled in the next room that I'm in, because there's traps on the floor that will trigger if the sun is on, but I can just safely walk over these panels with the sun off. I need to grab a speed nut here, which I'll use later. And now here is a 4-color puzzle. So if you thought, oh, that previous puzzle looked pretty easy, this is more what you can expect as you go through the game. Like, there are puzzles which are very involved, and when you casually reach something like this, you really do have to look at this, and you're just like, eh? Like, it's very difficult to figure out just offhand what the solutions for some of these puzzles are. Thankfully, these puzzles are not random. Like, once you memorize the solutions, you are good to go. But, yeah, some of these are very much not trivial to solve. Oh, my... I'm not going to mess around with that. I'm just going to reset the room. I forgot to turn my enchantment on. I want to kill these enemies for EXP. Okay, so that was not exactly ideal, but whatever. We'll carry on. And I'm going to kill this clay golem as I get down here with cloud. And switch to flame, because I'm going to need to hit the next mummy I come across with flame, so that it will helpfully run into a torch at the top of the room here and unlock a door on the south side of the room. I'm going to go outdoors and avoid a bunch of yellow slimes here, except I'm going to take a damage boost off that one yellow slime to knock me up the slope a bit faster, and... Cool, so that's exactly what I meant about, in the first dungeon I said when you try and slide past an enemy on the corner, it's possible to just contact it on the frame that you go around the corner. That's exactly what happened there. Like, it's basically random, you can't control it, that's just something that happens sometimes. Thankfully, those yellow slimes do hit for very little damage, so it's not an actual death risk, but there are enemies later in the game where that is a death risk. Also gonna focus here. Okay, good axe kill. Use one solar nut to restore some energy here. Select cloud and stand here for when these chests spawn in. Not bad. Gonna lose a bit of time here because of that memory lapse I had about having Sol active for the mummies. I can't believe I forgot that, but yeah, it's really easy to lose small amounts of time in this run from just forgetting like little menuing actions that you need to take to prepare for something. There's just so much micro memorization you need to do for like each room and how each room links together. Like, if you're at all familiar with RPG speedrunning, you'll know exactly what that feels like. Just needing to like memorize the sequence of events that you need to link together in a like multi-hour run where like all of your actions and choices have effects on what comes afterwards. Pick up a hidden chest here with a warp leaf and get out into the desert. So this is the biggest RNG swing of the run so far. There isn't really a manipulation we do for this because even if you could do a soft reset sequence, it wouldn't save enough time to be worth it. There's a grid here where there's a central screen I'm currently going around that I need 3 stone tablets to open, which are going to be in fixed spots on these like 8 screens surrounding, and I'm going to all of these spots in sequence. I need to find 3 tablets, so that's 2. Let's just hope I get a good one here. Not quite. Okay, let's just see where this last one is. Gonna just continue going in a counterclockwise fashion. Nope. So it's not looking like I'm gonna save any time here. Nope, I'm not saving any time. This is, like, just bad RNG. This does seem to happen. It's the worst possible pattern. Cool. Going around the entire sequence. Yep, that's a very good emote by Ruffy. That's a true emote for sure. Like, oh, ahead. Oh, no, not ahead anymore. I wasn't ahead when reaching here anyway, but, like, I mean, that's certainly what it feels like, what Ruffy's saying there. Yeah, I'm now 15 seconds behind. What a great pace. Thankfully, I don't need to get the hidden power nut in the corner of this room, because I did get a random drop earlier in the dungeon, so I can save a couple of seconds here, just going down into the basement. Need to hit these torches in a specific order to reveal the path into the next level of the basement. I'm going to switch to Cloud and kill this clay golem as I'm passing by it. And switch to Sol and kill these 2 mummies as they get close. Switch to Spear and Cloud for solving a puzzle now. Energy is very strictly rooted here. Like, after I solve this puzzle, I'm going to have, like, no energy remaining, and I'm going to need to refill on the solar station in the next puzzle room. Did I seriously do that? Did I seriously just do that? That is one of the biggest blunders I've made in quite a long time. Lol. I'm going to actually refill my health here since I'm already wasting a bit of time. So, yeah, that is incredibly stupid of me. I can't believe I turned too early there. Oh, man. Okay. Not a huge deal, but that's just a really silly blunder. Okay, let's do this correctly this time. Like, there's not even any gain in me trying to do the direction change early there. I'm not sure what the hell I was thinking there. Oh, well. At least this reduces the amount of energy I'm going to need to take out of the solar station, and it will give me a bit of a safer buffer for the end game, I guess. Yeah, that's quite a lot of energy I still have there. Alright, open my menu and use my speed nut, which I picked up earlier, which gives me 30 seconds of being able to move at the highest movement speed bracket. Gonna refill energy here before I leave the room. It is faster to refill energy on the solar station than it is to manually charge sunlight in a skylight, so I'm always going to choose the solar station if it's a choice between the two, and if I know that I have the spare funds in the solar station to be able to afford the withdrawal, because you do want to save a lot of funds for the end game. The final dungeon is going like way underground where you do not have access to skylights at all, so for the most part between the floors, the solar station is the only source you have, so you do need a reasonable buffer to be able to refill on each floor. Okay, going to be coming into the boss fight just here, and we're going to find the vampire from the start of the game that stole the solar gun. Not quite going to be able to get the solar gun back yet, that's not going to happen until the end of the game, and then I'm not actually going to retrieve it or use it because it sucks. This is a pretty scripted fight where I'm going to have to follow a very strict set of actions in order to finish this fight in 2 cycles. Like, whether you finish in 2 or 3 cycles is highly dependent on where the boss's health is at the end of each cycle, so I need to play in a very specific manner to essentially force 2 cycles here. So I am going to focus, even though this isn't particularly difficult. That is not a good combo, but still have just enough time to get to where I need to be to manipulate his position. Okay, so phase 1's fine. Another pretty unfriendly combo with the knives, but that's fine. Gonna take a specific set of actions here now. Yeah, that's fine. I've got enough space there. Okay, standard fight. If you get a third cycle there, that costs like over a minute, no questions asked, and that's really awful. Also, best part of any run. Glomp. So yeah, Django gets glomped and is now actually turning into a vampire. Like, oh, that's not good. So now we need to play as Sasuke for the next section. You need to drag Django back to town, and we need to purify Django to stop him from turning into a vampire. That happened right there because the vampire's hat gets knocked off and they finally get a proper look at the guy's face. And they realize that that is their father, Red Ringo, the original Solar Child from the first game and further back. And, you know, they can't bring themselves to kill their father, so then instead you just get attacked for your mercy. You know, no good deed goes unpunished, all that sort of thing. So we're going to use a couple of power nuts as Sabata or Sasuke to drag the coffin back to town as fast as possible. Also going to take a very strange route through the desert, which looks a little counterintuitive, but like the connecting quadrants of the desert do not behave quite the same way as all of the other areas of the game. Like, normally when you go from map to map, you get put at a specific spot, but the game actually tracks like where you came out onto a new map section here, so the optimal path here looks pretty strange, but this is faster than like other map choices. Also, I shouldn't be letting Sabata get hit here. I'm not sure why I have the sun enabled here. It's whatever. It's going to give me a little bit of sun for the rest of the game, which at this point I don't even need. Now, the next room I'm going to come into, this is extremely laggy. The game effectively just operates at like 50% speed here with all the sprites on screen. I hate it. Thankfully it doesn't last too long. And now, when I get onto the next screen, the bats can be at random positions on the wall, and I'm just praying that it's not going to be close. Okay, it's not close enough to aggro and actually attack me. Yeah, that's totally fine. The bat can be, like, right next to Sasuke as you get out onto that screen, and the gun that you have, the Gundel Hell, the Darkness gun, is actually really bad at dealing with flying enemies, because it fires a blob in one of 8 directions, and that is really bad for dealing with flying enemies that can move around erratically, believe it or not. So it's really easy to get harassed as you're trying to drag the coffin, and you keep dropping the coffin, then you run out of your speed buff, and it's just like, it's not a good time. I'm going to knock on 2 of these generators and start the purification. So as you saw in the desert, Sasuke does take damage from the sunlight as he's the Dark Child instead of the Solar Child. So this purification is effectively a damage race to purify Django before Sasuke dies to sunlight exposure. It's an easy damage race to win, but it's just, you know, casually this can be kind of anxiety inducing that you're like, oh no, my health's going down, I need to play good, and like, yeah. It's seems like a big deal, but you do easily win the damage race. Ah, I forgot to split after the previous boss, that's fine. I'm about 35 seconds behind right now. Pretty good, if I do say so. But I'm probably not going to PB on this run. Shame. And then Sasuke collapses, and Django is now part vampire. Not able to completely prevent the transformation, so all of Django's solar powers get sealed at this point, and you instead get access to a bunch of vampire powers. Some of them are pretty good, and one of them is really not good, and is never even going to make it onto my action bar. So, sucks to be Wolf. Wolf is never going to get used. What we are going to use is Element Dark, Bat Transformation, and Mouse Transformation. Those are all necessary to do the next section of the game, because there's a lot of puzzles involving using your new vampire powers. First, I'm going to do some menuing to change my loadout. Also, goddamn, my, all of those? Yeah, all of those have already expired. Wow. I needed to pay more attention to that, I guess. But that's fine, that's fine. So I'm going to refill my energy, and I'm also going to start hybridizing my energy refills by using Moonbug summons just before I start channeling energy, because now that Django is part vampire, he does get damaged by the sun while exposed to sunlight. So whenever you recharge energy, it is going to start costing health. Now I need to stop and do an actual EXP grind. I'm going to hit these infinitely spawning dark roots on the screen. Every time I leave the screen, they come back, and I get to just grind these for EXP. In the chat, you can play along at home. You can guess how many of these routes I'm going to kill. And in the commentary booth, you can take a guess as to how many of these I'm going to kill if you want. I'm currently at 4. I am going to be counting these out because I do need to make sure I don't lose track since I'm also spending energy to do this. I'm currently at 6. That's 8. 10. That's 12. 14. 16. 18. Yeah, it is cheating if you already know, so you can't say that. 20. This EXP grind is completely necessary for the route, and this is the most efficient source of EXP I can get at this point. 22, I think. 24. 26. 28. 30. So I'm just going to go for 30. And refill my energy. Why am I doing that? Yeah. Okay. Reselect spear. Need to kill this one as I'm driving by for a bit more EXP. Knock this yellow slime out of the way. Select sword and turn my enchant on for the next source of combat I'm going to be at. Okay. So we get into Dark City now. So this is entirely built around using Black Django and your new vampire powers. That's your vampire form is called Black Django, where the Solar Child is called Red Django. Put in my strength point. Cool. Gonna pick up a sunscreen here, which is gonna stay in my inventory for most of the game and not get used. Kill this Doug here for 80 experience, which is honestly quite a lot. Like, the dark roots that I was killing before are worth 40 EXP each, so killing that dog is like getting an extra visit to the dark root screen at basically no extra time cost. And there's another one in this next screen here that I'm gonna kill again. Switch to mouse and hammer. For the next time I'm gonna need to use my powers. Go around the back of this zombie and take a little hybrid refill before I come into this cutscene trigger here. Turn the light off. I'm not going to need the light for quite a while now. And Nero the cat is once again just trying to show us where to go to get through this dungeon. You get a few hints like that, but for the most part you do need to figure out yourself where to go, and there are a lot of different options of where to go. Like, there are a lot of side rooms, etc. Switch to bat and sword. Going to kill these green slimes as I'm passing through. And now Django starts receiving unsolicited whispers from the main antagonist of the game, trying to talk about how good vampire powers are and how you should start relying on them. So just block and move on, bro. Right. Select mouse, ignore those mummies. You can tangle with those mummies if you want. They are worth extremely high experience, 100 each, but they're also exceptionally dangerous, and I do not recommend it if you want to have a good time. If I got all of the mummies that I don't currently get, that are like reasonably clumped up to try and farm off, I could save about 15 seconds on the current EXP route, but I would also be risking dying in about 5 different spots, so I don't particularly want to do that right now for the sake of about 15 seconds. Oh, I shouldn't have menued away from that there, that's fine. Pick up this key without getting hit by that gust. As you can see, they are very aggressive. They don't actually see where you are. Those enemies are blind. They only track Django through sound. So when your footsteps get close, or when you knock on a wall, or like just cause any action that causes a sound, they do react to that. Kill these slimes again. Now, these mummies in this room I am going to kill because they are relatively trivial. And as you can see, with the weapon that I have now, it doesn't it's not super fast to kill them, it's just they are worth so much experience that it is worth the time that it takes to kill them. With the weapon that I have now, though, it's a bit dubious taking those kills. If I had a stronger weapon, which you can randomly get from rare drops in remains from the clay golems, it is clearly faster to take the kills, but it's also trickier to do it with the hammer, and they can just, depending on their iframe duration, they can ignore some of your hits, and it's very surprising how difficult it is to do those sets of kills correctly. I'm just using Bat to go over narrow walkways, and you're also seeing that Bat form can use echolocation to see where hidden item chests are, but most of them I'm just going to ignore, and you don't need to be in Bat form to actually collect them. If you know the item chests are there, you can just collect them without using echolocation to find them first. So the hidden chests that I actually care about for the run, you just memorize where they all are. Open this door, use Bat to fly over a couple more narrow gaps. And now coming up to what is probably the most creative strat in the run, but this can also go wrong very easily. So the undead die in direct contact to sunlight. When they get hit through a skylight, they will take scaling damage based on the sun level. I need to hit these things with no more than 9 sunlight to soften them. They have 300 health, and a hit for 10 will hit them for 300. So instead we soften them up and kill all of them as they're weakened for 300 easy experience, which is a huge cache of EXP at this point. If you accidentally hit them with 10 sunlight, they die and you get none of that experience. And then 300 is a massive deficit to make up at this point. And since you do need to specifically hit them at no more than 9 sun, judging the physical distance that you need to hold the system away from the light source to get 9 and not 10 sunlight, that is obviously really easy to accidentally get wrong. So I have definitely lost good paces to just being hasty with the setup there because I'm trying to go fast and I accidentally blast them with 10 and it ain't good. Going to be coming into Cheyenne now, which historically this has probably been the worst fight in the run. Thankfully it is very consistent now if I do it right, but I really need to focus on this strat. Okay, should be good. Okay, fine. I am very glad that fight went well. So that looked extremely easy, trivial, whatever, but I am strictly controlling when I'm attacking Cheyenne, where I'm attacking Cheyenne from, and how much damage I'm doing when he's on different parts of the tiles of the floor to control his movement and keep him locked down in an infinite pattern. If Cheyenne starts acting freely, he can like move pseudo-randomly like wherever he wants, including deciding to just walk through you multiple times, pull out his weapons when he wants, and attack pretty randomly, and you die extremely quickly in that fight. Like, you don't get remotely close to an idea of how bad that fight can go from just watching how it goes in a regular good run, but that is definitely, throughout the years that this game has been ran, one of the most dangerous fights in the run, for sure. Gonna go back to town now. I've taken the warp circle to enable the warp so I can go partway through the dungeon, and then use the warp leaf to get back to town. I'm coming up now to the most critical RNG manip of the entire run, which I'm going to be using a soft reset sequence for, and I also need to use an external timer for this. So you're not like going to hear it on the stream, I don't think, but I am using Eon Timer, an external program, so that I can time when to reset the game, and then begin a forge once I get back into the game within an 8-frame window. So forging is the way that you are supposed to get weapon upgrades in this game. You just, like, you know, combine weapons, rank them up into stronger weapons. So I'm going to craft these 2 swords together for a longsword. Just going to get a few hits here to guarantee that I get the correct weapon. Not going to continue to do any more hits. Every time you do a hit, it generates a little bit of lag, so it's slightly better to not continue to play that minigame. But now I need to re-enter the forge house and save and reset the game. And I'm using a very specific timing offset to time when to do the reset. And from there, I need to get back in game and confirm the forge within an 8-frame window so that I can manipulate the results of the next forge. And if I fail this, I will be saving and resetting this until I get this. Like, this is not optional to do for the route. You really, really need this weapon. So here we go. Okay, that timing felt good for the soft reset. Now my timer is running down. I need to get through these menus in time to be able to beat the timer. Okay, that's the date is correct. I do have a few flex seconds for making mistakes. Got about 20 seconds left. 15 seconds left. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. Okay, so if I did that confirmation prompt in the correct 8-frame window, I will get, instead of the white sword that was displayed in the results window there, I will get a screen flash and I'll get a black sword, which is a rare weapon called the katana, which is grossly overpowered for this point of the game, and it will carry me through the entire rest of the game. I do 15 strikes and no more in this forge. So if I followed all the instructions correctly and did the soft reset and confirmation in the correct 8-frame window, I will get the screen flash and I will be very, very happy. If I don't get it, I need to go again. No, dude, come on. Alright. Go again. I mean, that timing felt correct to me again, so we'll just try and do this correct. Few seconds left. Okay, round 2. And let's see again. I'm just hoping that I'm not going to sit here for like multiple minutes trying this because, as I say, I do need to get this for the route. Alright, second try every time. Like, god damn it. Second try. Losing like over a minute to get that? Ah, whatever. Yeah, I lost like a minute and a half. That's... Obviously, if you're going for really fast runs, that is a major reset point. That is a very difficult manipulation, and if you miss that, it's just you lose like a minute and a half, no questions asked. So, I have lost so many good runs to just not getting that first try. I was not able to even equip the weapon as soon as I got it there, though, because weapons in this game are level locked. You do need to be a specific level to be able to equip the katana. That's the primary reason that I do the EXP grind that I did before entering this dungeon, because I would really like to use this new weapon for the next boss fight, but if you just go as fast as possible with no spare EXP, you cannot equip the weapon at all. So when I get into the next boss fight, I'm going to assign my stat points and equip the shiny new weapon, and then I'm going to absolutely melt the next boss. I'm going to push this block because I need to backtrack along this path later on in the game. Use this solar station and get a health refill here. Ooh, very convenient. Very nice movement from the bug. Didn't require me to have to chase it down at all. Okay, so we're going to get here into the Red Durthroth fight. So she is the Earth-ruling immortal, where White Daenerys was the Sky-ruling immortal. She's like controlling all the dark roots around the town, and there's going to be a lot of roots in this fight, as well as a lot of plant bulbs. Phase 1, there's like a bunch of roots everywhere and just one bulb which contains her, so I need to find the bulb as fast as possible and hopefully end the phase before she can actually start attacking. Like phase 1 goes by in a couple of seconds if it goes right. And then phase 2, I will explain when I get there. I'm going to wait and see where the spawns are before doing my menuing so I can remove reaction time from where to go. Okay, that's pretty good. Going to equip the katana, put in my strength points. Okay, phase 1 done. Switch to bat, because now there's going to be 5 bulbs in random spots. Only one of them is going to contain her, and you can use the bat's echolocation to see which is the correct one. Otherwise, if you're not using bat, you need to wait a little bit, and then the correct bulb like vibrates a little bit, which you really do need to eyeball carefully, but using the bat is a lot more consistent for this. And since the katana deals with this fight in far fewer hits than previous routes, you have a lot of spare energy where you can afford to just spend the energy on using bat form to locate the correct bulb here. So now phase 3, I'm going to need to use an unenchanted hit plus an enchanted hit for each cycle, as well as getting out of the way of those roots as they spawn right under you. And watch out for things falling, and now one more hit will end the fight. So, if you don't have a frame of reference from watching previous runs or being familiar with this game, about how much time gets saved there from using the katana, let me put it this way. I didn't get a level up. What is wrong with my EXP route lately that I'm not getting a level up there when I'm expecting it? Anyway, sorry, let me finish my original thought. So the previous route that didn't use the katana takes over an extra minute to kill that boss. It just takes that much longer when you have a weaker weapon. So if you get the katana minute first try, the time it takes to do the soft reset sequence, even though that is quite a significant time investment, it actually saves more time to do that soft reset and get the katana. You gain pretty much all of that time back from just getting a much faster fight. And then the katana continues to pay dividends throughout the entire rest of the run, from dealing with every other instance of combat a lot more quickly. But yeah, I'm gonna have to start investigating, why am I not getting that level up there? I am 100% supposed to get a level up there, which allows me to assign my stat points and drag the coffin through the section a little faster, because coffin drag speed is related to your strength stat plus your agility stat. A Japanese runner called Beige recently discovered the table that dictates coffin drag speed based on the stat allocations. And if you have 75 points between your strength and agility, you'll drag the coffin faster. So if I had level up there, I'd be able to put 3 points into strength and drag the coffin quite significantly faster through there. But I'm just not entirely sure why I didn't get the level up there. I don't know what's wrong with my EXP count right now. Doing a soft reset sequence here. So this is not an RNG manipulation. This is a pure time save. So as I got started with controlling Black Django there, the first thing that I did before doing the EXP grind in the city was go to the coffin shop. And I bought a new coffin, which is called the Living Coffin Elephant Monster. The reason you want this specific coffin rather than any other choice is the elephant coffin is the only one that can move under its own power. And if you just leave the coffin behind after solving the puzzle in the previous dungeon, go back to town after resetting the system clock, if you set the system clock forward by X days, the coffin walks back to town on its own, and you don't have to do the coffin backtrack. I'm not going to have to do coffin backtracks for the entire rest of the game. Every time I deal with an immortal and put them in a coffin, I'm just going to leave the coffin in the dungeon, warp out of the dungeon, reset the system time, and just go to the pile driver, and the coffin is there. It saves so much time across the run to not have to deal with these backtracks. And then Django collapses because you're trying to do a purification as your vampire form and doesn't deal with the sunlight very well. So we get a nice little anime cutscene where, due to power of friendship or whatever else, I don't really know, you gain your solar powers back, and you'll now be able to freely switch between the forms of Red Django and Black Django. So most of the rest of the run is going to be done as Red Django, since I'm also going to get access to a movement speed tool in the next scenario, which is going to speed up the run immensely. First of all, I'm going to put my stat points in here and do a enchant selection. I need that there. Yep. Refill my energy, and now I do need to focus a little bit in this purification. Oh, my, really hunting me down there. Oh, get in. Alright. Where are you going? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, this purification, should be the same every time, quote-unquote, but, if you start missing, the timings for when she escapes start getting a little desynced, and it's really bad to have the thorns come out when you're still in the process of trying to get her back in the coffin. They do fly out at like random spots, and they do pretty hefty damage. And if you're actually in the dead center of the arena, like where all of their hitboxes overlap as they spawn, you can get hit by multiple of them on the same frame, and you can just die on the spot if you are just in their spawning point as they all spawn, which is pretty funny. Selecting the second text option there so that I don't save the game when prompted. And I'm actually going to do a slight deviation to the planned route here, I guess. I definitely have enough money, so since my initial items have expired, I'm going to go and get the dash magic that's going to let me move really fast through the rest of the game. And then I'm going to visit Lita's item shop, and I'm going to buy 1 solar fruit, which I'm going to need in the next scenario. Normally I would use the one that is in my starting inventory, but because I've apparently just willy-nilly had the sun on like all the time, my items have already expired. That's one of the other major considerations for rooting in this game is your fruits are perishable items in this game. The higher the sun exposure they have, the faster they spoil and become unusable. So this has like really dynamic rooting implications for speedrun in this game, that like your rooting options are highly dependent on how good you are and how quickly you play the game. Because if you are a less experienced runner and you simply take longer to complete the game, you do not have the option of using more aggressive rooting options. Since, like, the most aggressive rooting option that I'm going to use is before I go to, like, the next main dungeon, or before I go to what's called Spiral Tower, I'm going to do an item shop to give me my inventory for the rest of the game. But doing that requires you to play the entire rest of the game very quickly in order to have those items survive long enough to use in the final dungeon. So it's like, if you are not playing at a very, very high standard, you're actually pretty limited in what some of your item buying options even are. So like, yeah, the rooting for this game is highly dependent on how quickly you can play in order to retain item lifespan. And that is something that is just not really common in a lot of games, I find. Okay, so we get into the next dungeon here, the Aqueduct, but we're unable to enter the Aqueduct. Ringo has regained, like, some of his, free will and function, so is telling us that we need to find 3 tarot cards in previous dungeons to unlock the seal on the door here. Gonna kill 1 Gus that's here before moving on, and start using the dash to move on. So yeah, this is what movement for pretty much the entire rest of the game is going to look like, using this dash magic at maximum sunlight, because once again, none of the mechanics in this game are remotely tuned for having access to max sunlight, so your movement speed just goes through the roof when you're dashing with 10 sun like this. And whenever possible, this is how I'm going to be moving for the rest of the game. Oh hey, nice Gladius, lol. This does cause you to take increased damage if you accidentally run into stuff though, because you do take automatic critical hits while you are dashing around. So it is a definite risk-reward mechanic. Use this warplate to leave. Now do some more dashing around. Trigger this tentacle to come at me, and hopefully, yep, deal with all of them. If I clear all of the tentacles off this screen now that Durathor is dead, these will not respawn, and this is going to be like a central hub screen for the rest of the run, so it is prudent to clear them off the screen during that visit. Now I need to go back all the way through the second half of Dark City again. This is a very satisfying movement-based section to get right. Oh, that was really close to running into the green slime there. I'm not sure how I didn't contact the green slime there. And the green slimes do poison you when you run into them, which does a lot more damage than you'd expect. Like, it stays on Django for ages. And since I haven't invested any points in Vitality, like, I still have my starting life count of 100, which at this point is a, like, comically low amount of health to be playing the game with. Like, I'm well into the second half of the game now. I am definitely at the point where, like, if I just run into stuff or just take hits from random enemies, I will be lucky to be able to survive hits at this point. So put on my 4 primary elements here, use Flame, Earth, Cloud, and Frost to solve this puzzle. You need to push this iron block in the hole, and then push these floating blocks into specific points. Use the spear to push this two, switch the sword, push that down, push this across, use spear to thrust this. Now I can put these over the floor panels and use frost to lower them. I'm going to use the one solar nut that I bought earlier to refill my health, and need to change my loadout again now. Put on those, switch to dash and sword. Kill these gusts as I'm going through this room, which is now very easy with Sol, thankfully. And I'm going to do a little bit of a counterintuitive room movement pattern. I need to do enough room transitions to respawn those enemies, and now they will share spawn points with this next room, and I would rather kill those enemies in this room. Yeah, if it sounds weird, like, yeah, it is a little weird to wrap your head around and route accurately. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do before I go into the next dungeon is, since my EXP was apparently not correct at Durathor, it's going to be a bit of a risk to continue the rest of the run without making a slight overcorrection on my EXP. So normally, before I enter the next dungeon, I would kill 3 mummies on the screen before it, but instead I'm just going to kill 4 just to make sure that my EXP can't be wrong. Switching my loadout a little before exiting the dungeon. Now I need to go back to Remains, the second dungeon of the game, and find this last tarot card, which is required to enter the aqueduct. Which I am going to need to use the hitherto unused dynamite magic to detonate a wall so that I can reveal a hidden passageway. Like, these rooms might look a bit familiar, like I was here like way earlier in the run. Except now I need to go up here and I need to... Thanks, game. I need to destroy this wall. Please? Dude. Whatever. That's not how that was supposed to go, but I just won't worry about it. Read this route, transform again, and dash up here. Need to replace Dynamite with Sol before I warp out. Now I can get out of here. And so this is where I'm going to go back to the aqueduct now with the tarot cards that I can use to unlock the door, but I'm going to kill 4 mummies on the next screen, which I can, like, re-exit the screen to force respawns for. So I'm just going to kill 4 of these before I move on. I'm also, out of pure caution, I'm going to refill my energy here. Or my life, sorry. So this will be the last kill I take here. So my EXP cannot possibly be wrong now that I've taken an extra mummy kill. That's, like, worth an extra 100. I was definitely not behind at Durathor by more than 100, so, like, my EXP cannot be lacking now. I don't think it's possible. Well, I know it's not possible, because that level up that I just got off that last enemy, I am supposed to get that level up on this purple slime that's right in front of me, so yeah, I'm slightly ahead of where my EXP needs to be at this point. So I just have a pretty safe buffer. And I say buffer as though there's going to be variance. There really isn't any variance in where you gain experience from this point. It's just you want to definitively make sure that none of the level ups from this point don't occur before specific fights. Because, like, I've planned it so that you have the bare minimum once you're at the final dungeon to do certain fights at certain levels, which makes them either a bit easier or really more reasonable with the limited energy that you have. Like, being at a different level will reduce the number of hits that certain fights will take, and since your energy is pretty limited, that can actually have a severe impact on whether the fights are really doable. Refill my energy on the skylight. And transform to Black Django before going into this trap. So, seems a little strange to use Element Dark on skeletons here, but enemies in Boktai 2 either have a simple elemental weakness or they don't have any weakness at all. And skeletons actually do not have a weakness. Like, you would think that you want to use Sol for these, but they are not treated as having a Sol weakness. And when you hit an enemy with its elemental weakness, you can hit it for quadruple damage. But since they don't have a weakness, they simply take plus 25% from every elemental source. And so using Black Django there, one of the main properties of Black Django's attacks is crowd control. Like, it does some fixed knockback, and you can control the skeleton fences a lot more easily using Black Django than you can by trying to hit them with Red Django, which doesn't deal any knockback. Now, coming into this next boss fight with low health like I am now is pretty dangerous. and this is a very RNG heavy fight, but there is also a skylight in this fight, so I will have opportunities to refill health if I get small moments of downtime. Whether I get moments of downtime is to be determined based on what the RNG does, so I'm going to just have to be able to react to everything that happens. This is going to be the Sea Ruling Immortal, Blue Dvalin. It's like a huge squid octopus thing, which is going to have a main body which you won't get to hit very much, and tentacles around the arena which you are going to pump most of your damage into. They do spawn at random points, and if they spawn together, I am able to cleave them for double damage, but that is highly random. I just have to react to what I get here. Not quite close enough. That was the wrong decision. Whatever. You go again. Okay, where is spawning? Okay, this is a pretty bad fight now, but it just sometimes happens. Now I need to also time an attack for when she's rushing the platform. Oh, now we get a double. Lovely. Awesome. Big help now. And she's far away, so I need to equip Sleeping and switch to Black Django and use the Elephant Coffin so I can fire a shot far away. That was just a terrible, terrible, terrible fight. Bad RNG, bad placements. I made a poor decision in coming in without refilling my health. Took a death and then just continued like not very good RNG throughout the second attempt. Just sometimes it happens. Sometimes is good, sometimes is not so good. Thankfully, I am now at the point where, since I've been resetting the clock a couple of times, my money is incredibly secure. That death does not impact my ability to finish the run at all. So the way the game handles this is you have your bank balance, and every day that passes, you get a variable interest rate. Like, yeah, you have to deal with the world of finance in Boktai speedrunning. Every day that passes, your interest rate can be anywhere from, I think it's 1.5% to 15%. And as you can see, I've got like 7,500 now. So every time you set the clock forward by a month, you don't get a month of interest. You can get up to 10 days at a time, but it's compounding interest based on the interest rate that you have. And during that reset window, the interest rate remains the same across all 10 days. So like if you have a 15% random interest rate and you just get that for 10 compounding days in a row, you don't have to worry about money ever again. By contrast, if you get like 1.5% interest rate and you get that across like all the clock resets, you can actually have not enough money to realistically continue the run, which can happen. It's unlikely, but it can happen, and it really sucks when that does happen. Where are you going? Okay. That's actually pretty good. She's gonna escape from the coffin one more time, hopefully in a position I can just slash her back in. Yeah, oh, that's actually good. Okay, that was actually a good purify. Whoa! I'm Keanu! I know Kung Fu! Whoa!
Is there a brief moment that I can jump in with a zoner, or are you locked in?
I would love it. Thank you.
So we just got $200 from Kenora. That says, I was going to do a 10 burger for each encounter, but I very quickly forgot and lost count. Take this guesstimate. Love the work and the cause. Keep it up, everyone. Thank you, Kenora, for your incredible generosity, and thank you for your excellent Chrono Cross run.
Let's go.
It was excellent to sleep to, on the couch in the background. Yeah, thank you, Kenora, for letting me get some rest during this. I otherwise would have probably just stayed awake for the majority of the 48 hours. So, thank you, Kenora, for manning the tech station during that. And yeah, it's all being raised for Gamers Outreach, putting little gaming kiosks in hospitals with monitors, games, consoles, etc. For kids in hospitals to socialise and play games with their fellow patients and families and whatnot. So yeah, excellent cause, and I'm really happy to be a small contributing part to the over $100,000 that's been raised in the Jolly Jamboree so far. Thank you everyone for making this event in what, in my opinion, is a resounding success. And it's not even over. Yeah, it's been awesome so far, and back to Drakodan and Stylenite. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kenora, for sure. So, we're now in Spiral Tower. This is, in my opinion, but it's also an objective fact, this is the most engaging dungeon in the run. You're switching between the two brothers pretty frequently. There's just a lot of management of the solar center itself, since Sasuke doesn't necessarily appreciate being exposed to the sunlight. And I do want to limit exposure when I can to increase the lifespan of my items. Like, I've already done the final shop that I mentioned, so from now until the end of the game, I am on a soft timer where my inventory is going to slowly become unusable, and I need to reach the end of the game in time so that I can actually use those items before they expire. So from here, I'm obviously trying to go fast, and I'm trying to limit sunlight exposure where I don't strictly need it so that I am preserving those items. If I just hold right out of this warp, I will never hit the black slime on the corner as long as I have a protector equipped. When I first entered the dungeon and passed it on the corner, that is completely random whether you hit the black slime, and if you hit it twice, you die. So that's nice. Like, absolutely nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. Now, these cockatrices are normally enemies from hell, but they are also very easy to misdirect, and they are extremely dense EXP gain, so I am more than happy to get 800 experience from killing 4 of these and get a very quick level up, which I can take into the next mini-boss. This mini-boss strat is very difficult to execute optimally, so I am going to hard focus on trying to execute this fight well just now. Alright, here we go. Nice. That is very tight to get the kill before the sword teleports there. And using Black Django is considerably faster for the sword plus and axe plus fights, since you can just swing a lot faster, and Element Dark also deals plus 50% damage when it's used at nighttime. So, like, the other factor of if an enemy doesn't have a specific elemental weakness, and if they allow you to just attack them as fast as possible, Element Dark is actually by far the most efficient damage source out of any element that you have. Just, it hits a lot harder and it hits a lot faster. So just disabling the sun while Sasuke is outside, since I don't want him to, like, burn up. I mean, I don't really care about him burning up, but I'm also, like, limiting the sun exposure for my item lifespan. You do want the sun to be out while he's indoors, however, since that enables his energy bar to slowly refill, and you do use a lot of energy as Sasuke throughout this dungeon. If you reach the next outdoors section without any energy, you can actually fully softlock, since there is, like, a limited time window based on the system clock, I think Ruffy figured out, where you don't necessarily have the ability to channel darkness while outdoors like this, and you can actually fully softlock if you don't handle that correctly. But these days we just know how to have a lot of energy, and it's not really a concern. Please hit the lever, hello? Please select the hammer. Hello? Boy, menuing. Menuing's hard. As like any RPG runner will tell you, the hardest thing in the world is having good menuing. Sayo, confirm or deny?
Absolutely confirmed. Menuing is the hardest skill.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like the serious answer as well. That it's a deceptive skill, because like it's just a menu. How do you fuck up a menu? But lo and behold, there's like 18 trillion unique and exciting ways that you can, in fact, muck up a menu.
Oh yeah. Like, as I get to the next boss fight in this game, if I select the wrong text option, I will just get an instant bad ending. Like, that's one of the worst text menuing mistakes you can make in any game. Okay, this screen is really difficult. Oh, I really hope that was... Okay, thank God. Yeah. Going across that floating platform with those flame jets, which do push you off the platform and instantly kill you, as Red Django is faster than using Black Django, but is a hell of a lot more dangerous. If you're using Black Django, you can just transform into bat form, and the flame jets will not push you off and kill you. They will still hit you very hard, but they won't kill you instantly. Or you can just be extremely precise with how you take them, and just not do the transformation, do it as Red Django, save to the tune of 10 seconds, and risk dying on both ways across. So I read a hint panel earlier, and if you are fluent in Japanese, which you should be, then follow along with this second hint panel so that you can pass the information and know where to go. 3 east, cool. So I had 2 south and 3 east. Then you have to invert that, so that is 3 south and 2 east. Gonna transform here. Wahey! So that's not too bad. So yeah, you don't really need to know a lot of Japanese for this run, but you do need to know the kanji for the 4 cardinal compass directions. You need to know north from south and east from west. Otherwise, it's... What am I... Did I seriously just do that? What do I even do with this? Okay. Do I still transform? I think I do. That is the dumbest thing I've ever done, because after using Rising Sun, you can't even disable the sunlight. Yeah, that's the first time I've ever died like that, like accidentally selecting Rising Sun there. That is a genuine first. Okay, whatever. We'll do it again. It's fine.
Mark off your bingo cards, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, 100%. That is like that has never happened before moment for this game, for sure. Oh well. So, just for some caution, I'm gonna refill energy and health here, I guess. Please. There you go. Okay, we're gonna get up to the top of Spiral Tower here. And I do need to have the sun no higher than 8 here when I get to the roof, because there is solar wind which pushes you around, which isn't a huge concern, but the solar walkway that I just used there is not active if the sun is not between 1 and 8. And so if you accidentally like go up above 8 while you're on the walkway, it just disappears and you just die instantly. So you do need to be careful about your sun level there. These ghosts are the bane of my existence, by the way. They will randomly scramble your controls as they are flying around. They, like, once they latch onto you, they don't deal any damage, but they do rapidly drain your energy, and they just randomly reassign your D-pad directions. And, like, I don't know what it is about, like, myself and my ability to determine the directions, but I just cannot figure it out whenever it happens. I just cannot fucking get it right. And that's my one swear for the run, I'm sorry. It goes to show how much I absolutely despise those things. They just draw it out of me. I can't help it. Gonna put on Rising Sun over Frost and put in my stat points before I forget. Yes, please, I'm actually trying to do that. Thank you, game. Okay, and now we just need to finish Sasuke's side of Spiral Tower. Thankfully, he is right at the top, only has 1 floor to go, and it's a very simple floor. Yeah, here we go. Shoot a lever that's off screen there, and got a nice little buffer of energy to just dash through the last exit, which just got opened there. Ah, please. Alright. It's fine. See, unlike Django, Sasuke has actually invested stat points into a sensible spread of stats and has good body armor on, so he can more or less shrug off hits pretty easily. Doesn't really care about getting hit like that, which is pretty nice. So, gonna come into the main, like, antagonist boss fight of the run. where their father, Red Ringo, was possessed by the Shadow Immortal, Black Dain, who's like masterminded this plot to awaken this primordial being that's sleeping underneath the city called the Ancestor Piece. Like, it's not a living being or an undead being, it's just an eternal being that simply wants to devour the world. And so the family of immortals are like, yeah, we can use that to destroy the world, that sounds good. And I'm gonna need to try and stop him from doing that. This is pretty much a retrain of the fight in Remains, where, like, this will look pretty familiar as I'm, like, protecting Sabata while he's in the center. And that's the text choice, by the way, where if you select that first text choice, you just get a bad ending, no questions asked, so don't do that. Gonna start with Rising Sun to chunk him for over 1500 damage, which I can't repeat in the fight, unfortunately, but this does allow me to remove one cycle from this fight. Once his health bar gets to 50%, this is gonna transition into phase 2, where Dain is gonna leave Ringo's body, and I'm gonna go for a very precise and very difficult strat, which will allow me to save an extra cycle on the fight, but will kill me instantly if I get it wrong, and this is dependent on, like, pixel data and frame data. Okay, here we go. Those Darkness Orbs kill you in one hit, no questions asked, if you get connected by them. And there is a very, very narrow spot where if you stand as close as possible to his hitbox, their hitbox does not overlap with you, and you're able to just wail on him from safety. But yeah, if you make a very slight mistake in your positioning or timing, if you misjudge anything there, you die instantly. And you go back to the start of the fight, and you're wasting energy and resources, and then you need to do an extra shot before you even go into the last dungeon, so you lose a lot of time from making a mistake there. But easy game, no problem. And we're just gonna warp out and leave the coffin behind. Like, I don't care, dude. See you later. Gonna soft reset the game one more time because I need to warp the coffin back to town. Just gonna make sure on this reset that there's no sunlight touching the sensor so that I can calibrate it. And need to go to October 29th, a daytime hour. This is the next full moon date from where I was previously playing. So the coffin is going to warp back, and I'm still going to have access to moonbugs. Now, I'm only able to summon moonbugs on the first floor of Spiral Tower. Like, at this point you go underground, and there is only on the first basement floor a single skylight that I can use to get access to moonbugs, but that is better than nothing, so definitely use it if possible. Now this purification is extremely dangerous. Just like the second phase of the dying fight, if I make a mistake here and get hit by anything, I will die in one hit from full health. So this is definitely hard focus time. Not a good start. Okay. Okay. Now there's going to be more. He's going to break out one more time. There's going to be more orbs. It's probably going to happen around the same time. I'm just going to play safe there. Yeah, I don't even care. Damn it! I did not. I have no idea how that slash did not connect all three, and I tried to mash a second slash just in case that first one did miss, and it still didn't connect. Cool. So yeah, I tried to play around the mistake and still got punished there somehow. What a cool game. Oh well. Let's go again. Okay, my energy's full, that's fine. Doesn't matter whether I refill health here, because like I say, I die in one hit either way. It is irrelevant whether I'm at full health or not. Alright, where are you going? Just play it safe, I don't even care. Don't care about getting him back in the coffin as soon as possible, I'd rather survive. And now we've got like 2 minutes of cutscene and exposition, so I'm just going to disable the light altogether and, again, like, limit my exposure during this time where I don't strictly need it. It makes no sense to be exposed like this when it's getting me no benefit. Legitimately, just like take whatever safety measures you can to limit exposure when doing a run like this, like, highly recommend. And then Ringo sacrifices himself to charge sunlight to exorcise Dain for good. So it's like, yeah, we killed the family of immortals and everything's fine now, except everything is not fine since they got far enough in the unsealing process that the being underneath the city, the ancestor piece, is waking up in spite of our efforts. So the only thing we can do is go down underneath Spiral Tower into the dungeon called Undead Zone to reseal the ancestor piece. Like, you can't kill it, it's an eternal being, so all you can really do is stun it and subdue it so that it can be resealed underneath the city. And that's going to be a pretty long and extended dungeon once we get in there. And we just, like I say, get a fair bit more cutscene. Thankfully, this is one of those games where you can just hold B to advance text. Which, if this was one of those games where you actually had to manually mash text advancement, I'm not sure I'd be so keen on this as a speed game. Okay, we're going to regain control here. And let's go. So, with the more refined route we have now, with doing an early shop, and with the knowledge that we can deal with all of the rest of the fights with the weapon that we currently have now, the katana, there is no longer a need to return to town for an extra shop, which already saves like a minute on the previous route. And so, the resources that I have now, this is what I have for the entire rest of the run. Like the inventory that I bought earlier with the healing items. And I'm still on that soft time limit of you need to like play fast enough that these items are gonna survive long enough to be used in the boss fights where I actually need them. So first floor of Undead Zone is, I mean, relatively trivial, but all of these are pretty difficult. Like, this is just the most difficult section of the game, in my opinion. And all of the mini-boss fights are individually threatening. So we're going to knock on a wall here to lure the skeleton. In most of the rooms in this first floor, you cannot be seen by the enemies. Like, if the enemies detect you, the door at the end of the room will lock. So this is one of the few sections of the game where you actually have to respect the stealth mechanics. Need to push the block now, and push it a couple more. Gonna refill my energy, energy and life here before I progress. I need to get the sun down because there is a solar walkway in this room. And now I need to quote-unquote back hit both of these skeletons so that I can get past them without being seen while they're stunned. Put in my stat points before I forget, and enable transform and... no, bat. There you go. So that I can get this key. Knock on this wall to distract these enemies that take a very strange path, but it works. Get a key that's hidden behind this block, and now we're going to loop back around to the start of the floor and go into the boss room. This thing is the bane of my existence. I did a GDQ hotfix run yesterday, and I died here after no-deathing the rest of the run. This thing just sucks, the sandworm. So it's going to burrow underground now, and it's going to move around completely randomly and decide to fire rocks randomly. And it can move on top of your position at any time it wants at an unreactable speed and just kill you on the spot if it wants to. Which almost happened there. Okay, you really have to carefully time when to hit it as it comes out of the ground there, as it's diving towards you. Like, that's really just a nail-biter moment whenever you try to do that. You have to hit the head as it dives towards you, so that you can stun it and finish it off. But, I mean, if you mistime the slash and it just hits you, you just die on the spot. So, yeah, it's just one of those deals. Refill my energy. So this is the point where I no longer have access to any regeneration. The, solar station balance that I have here is the only real source of energy regen I have between the floors, outside of the items that I have in my inventory, and I'm wanting to save the inventory items for mid-fight. So the balance that I have in the bank is just going to be going down and down as I'm moving through the floors here. Like, the amount of flex energy that I have is actually extremely high because of the amount of sun exposure I've had through this run, so I am very safe in that regard. But yeah, if you're trying to like play as efficiently and as lean as possible, you can put yourself in really sketchy situations with the amount of energy you have access to. Okay, just going to move along as fast as possible here. I'm going to come into the next mini-boss fight against the Lich, which is a very dangerous fight that requires you to pay attention to your surroundings at all times. This is in a darkened room, and as is the fashion, a lot of stuff in this fight will either kill me in one hit or leave me at critically low health from very low. Okay, that's actually really good to get the cleave on the skeleton as it came out. Refill health with a couple of solar nuts. Just play safe there. That was actually a pretty good fight. I had to do a lot of movement, but I wasn't actually in any immediate danger in that fight, which I'm always grateful about. And whenever these fights go clean, it really doesn't do justice to just how dangerous they are. Like, there is multiple things that you're having to play around at all times in that fight. The room is dark, so like your visibility is limited and it's easy to miss something. It's like there are a million things that can go wrong in that fight. So, third floor, the Serpent's floor. This is an ice-based floor, as you can see. There are actual ice floor sliding puzzle mechanics to do. There's only one like real ice puzzle that's going to be done on this floor, and this features the only quote-unquote skip of the run, where you're supposed to do more of this floor to spawn like one of these ice cubes in the middle of a large ice floor, but by standing in a specific point and laying some dynamite, I'm able to spoof some knockback. This is going to knock Django into the middle of the floor, and I can slide in an unintended direction to skip most of this puzzle, which is very handy. And now I can just go straight to the end of the arena. Into the next mini-boss, the Serpent, which is a really unpleasant customer at the best of times. It's similar to the Sandworm, where it's going to spend most of its time underwater. I am able to force it to leap out of the water by laying dynamite, which I'm not entirely sure what causes it to actually jump. I think it's the emission of a sound that causes it to jump, because if you transform into mouse form and do a squeak with the A button, that also forces the Serpent to start jumping at you, which is really weird. But the Serpent's weak point is the tail, which is only out at very limited times. And I do not have a spear for this fight, I just have the katana. Previously, we used to always use a spear for this fight to be able to hit further away, but you can technically hit it with the katana, it's just very challenging to do so at certain points. So, moving away. There's a very high technical factor in this fight. You jumping again? No. Alright. Lay more dynamite. Damn it! Oh my god, why did I not pause buffer that? Yeah. That's what I'm like trying to do throughout the fight, and for some reason I just decided to not pause buffer that one. So, whatever. There's no point in me refilling my health, because again, I'll die if I take a hit. Like, I got hit for 115 there, so yeah, there's not really much point in me refilling my health. Whatever. I'll just be a little more liberal with my pause buffer usage here so I can react to where it's going. Oh, you... I hate this thing. I absolutely hate this thing, dude. Of course it's going around again. Dude, this is absolutely terrible. I cannot get a good serpent in a marathon run for the life of me. I can't get a good serpent in a normal run for the life of me either, but like especially in a marathon run, like what on earth? Ugh, finally. Yeah, that was absolutely dreadful. I'm losing like a minute and a half here. That's just no bones about it. That was just a really, really bad floor, unfortunately. Just happens sometimes. Okay, I do have enough energy to get out of this floor here. Switch to dash. I guess this actually gives me that, like, that fight took so much longer than normal that I actually have reason to be a little concerned about whether my items are going to survive the Lich Plus fight now. Kind of just have to see. I do have enough energy in the solar station to not really worry about my energy usage throughout this floor, but nonetheless, I do need to worry about if my solar fruits are going to be usable during the Lich Plus fight. That remains to be seen. Okay, equip Frost over that and equip Cloud here. Switch to Cloud, push this block, push it in that direction again. Break the stone block, push the iron block. Use Earth now to delete this block and dash onto the floor panel. And now just all I can do is try and get through the rest of this floor as fast as possible and pray that I've reached this point in time for my items to still be usable, because not necessarily a guarantee. Like, transform and sleeping, because I need to use the coffin to shoot the lever across the gap. Sword and all that again. Okay, gonna get a hidden chest here and slash at some hidden solar bamboo so I can get some regen. I'm still gonna use a healing item before I enter the boss fight here. I may as well do it now before I forget and I get to... Well, can't see yet like what the lifespan is on the other items, but they are almost certainly going to be at 1 out of 4 durability, which could mean anywhere between like having a few minutes left to being about to expire. The game is not super specific on item lifespan, but they haven't spoiled yet, so that's good. Get another solar fruit here. Take a final refill before I come into this fight. And now I really need to focus on my positioning here. This is a simple fight when it goes correct, but again, a single mistake will get me killed. Thank you so much, game, for trying to screw me there. I had to play around a very bad random event there. So I got contacted by a random flame particle as it was flying around. And I ended up inside the boss's hitbox, which is like, that is no bueno, can't do that. Because you want to deliberately damage boost on the boss's body so that you can end in the correct spot so that the rotating flame attack there does not contact you. If the flames hit you, you just die on the spot. But being able to damage boost and use that method is very good. But since I got contacted by like the random little flame particle, I was not able to do the setup as intended, and I actually needed to like eyeball the correct spot. Like, dude, the RNG is whatever. It's fine. I did it correctly. The game tried to screw me. It didn't work. I won. I don't care. I'm moving on. This is the last floor of the run. So. The seals are being reforged in town. Our friends are gonna visit the previous dungeons and reapply these seals so that we can reseal this ancestor piece that's underneath the city. So, if you are savvy with the names in this game, the 4 immortals that we've been fighting are Daenerys, Durathor, Dvalin and Dain, which are the 4 stags in Norse mythology that nibble at the world tree, Yggdrasil. And so, if you know a bunch about your Norse mythology, then you'll also know like what kind of like doomsday beasts exist in the Norse mythology, and which one is like characterized as a like all-devouring Doomsday Beast, which is going to be the final boss of the run, which I won't like necessarily spoil until we get there. But like, you know, if you know, you know. Let's get through a few more rooms. Gonna get seen here so that I can slip by that enemy like that. Do a few more dashes. Need to scale the sun back a little here because there is a solar walkway here. Because the game inserts that solar walkway as a failsafe to make sure that you have access to some sunlight. Because during this fight, if there is no sun out, the boss is completely invulnerable. You must have sunlight to be able to do this fight. And I will be doing this fight as Black Django, which means I'm taking sunlight damage. And the final boss is the Great Serpent Jormungand. So I'm going to be constantly taking damage through this fight, which is like, what? Black Django just can't survive in the sunlight. This is the reason that for the whole run, I've been saving the sunlight, that's the sunscreen that's been in my inventory the whole time. So I'm going to pop the sunscreen. I've now got 60 seconds of sun immunity as Black Django. Do a few hits on the eyes each to stun it, get a few hits on the body so that I can get a good cycle here. And hit the tongue 5 times while it's out for huge damage. Now Black Django is immune from this Black Breath attack, which lets you just stand and wail on it in the second cycle. 5 more tongue hits. Just hit the eye as soon as it's out. And apparently not able to get a cleave, that's a shame. And that's the last fight over. So like, that fight looks really simple when it's done quickly and efficiently, but it's hard to really describe how dangerous that fight is. Like, not least because you'll see here, as part of a cutscene, like you get lunged towards and eaten. Like, Jormungand tries to do that to you every time you hit it in the eyes. And if it manages to lunge at you and swallow you, that's just instant death. It's unavoidable. So you cannot let that happen, and you can't really do the fight quickly without getting in its grill as it's about to lunge at you so that you can get additional eye hits and stun it earlier. So yeah, getting right to the end of a run on PB pace and trying to get a quick pace in that fight, knowing that like if you make a positional or timing mistake, you just instantly die. It's like, yeah, this is one of those runs that really is not over until it's over. However, it is now about to be over. There is one more quick time event. You just get to charge sunlight and burn it from the inside. And time is when this health bar reaches 0, which comes up very quickly, or a couple of seconds from time here. Time.
GG.
Oh, man, I'm not even getting like sub 150s in this these marathon runs. Like, what's going on with it, dude? Oh, nonetheless, like... Yeah, so I have the same evaluation that I have for every marathon run I ever do. Aside from the stuff that went wrong, that was pretty good. That's what I say about every marathon run, basically.
Well, I think you did spectacularly.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope everyone else enjoyed this. I do love this game a lot, and I'm always happy to show this game off.
Oh, I was saying the same in chat. I'm absolutely in love with this game, but I think I consume it entirely through your streams. Just to check as well, because I was pretty sure, maybe I just haven't noticed. I thought you fight the final boss as regular Django. Is Black Django a safety change or a recent change or something? I thought you just fought it as regular Django.
No, Black Django has always been the strat for the final boss.
Damn. I just like Mandela'd myself into thinking that it was human Django. I got excited.
Maybe, yeah. Like, you're able to attack a lot faster as Black Django, and Jormungand doesn't have a specific elemental weakness, so Element Dark just punches way above its weight on that fight.
Yeah, awesome. I guess I mucked that up in my mind. And now I feel like an idiot for talking about how much I watch your streams and then I get the final boss strats wrong.
Well, no, it's like, you know, maybe you're the guy. Maybe you learn the game. Maybe you try routing that fight as Red Django and you actually find an improvement. Maybe that's the strat. Like, maybe I'm the idiot. You never know.
Maybe I'm the solar child.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to, before we do send it over to the next run and whatnot, I want to give particular thanks to Stylenide. for this one. There were some tech issues before the run started. I had a little bit less time than I thought I did to get set up for Solar Boy Django, and Style and I definitely came in clutch with getting Drakodan and myself set up to showcase this excellent run. So thank you.
Thank
yeah,
you. I'll pay it forward and send it to both you and Draco. Like, thanks for the marathon so far, Sayo. And Draco, it's always a pleasure co-commentating. Even if I say a grand total of 10 words, your commentary is fantastic and the gameplay as well. It's just always great to be a part of it.
Well, no, yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I'm always happy to have along people who appreciate this game because, you know, in the grand scheme of gaming, we're a pretty rare breed, like, you know, the Boktai enjoyers, so always got to share it with the people who really enjoy these games. And we had a couple of names turning out in the chat as well, like Rafi and Dr. Hell, very talented Boktai runners who, without their help, I wouldn't have been able to get anywhere near the level that I am now in this game. Like, everyone who loves these games is just so incredibly dedicated and diligent with how well these games are documented. It's been really fun to be a part of. So, yeah, thank you very much, Sayo, for having me along. Thank you very much, Starlo, for joining me and, as mentioned, helping with the tech issues. Like, you're both absolute legends.
Mate, coming from you, that's incredibly high praise. Now, before we do send it over to our next run, the people have been asking. I know you were keeping an eye on chat, but I don't think you saw the wave of questions coming in about this particular topic. The people want to know, where can we see more Drakodan?
You can see more. I'm gonna, like, here's what's gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna type a link and then Nightbot's gonna time me out or something. Now, there you go. See, that works, yeah. Thank you very much, Sayo. So, yeah, I do stream over at twitch.tv/Drakodan. There it is. If you would like to see more of this game, please do feel free to drop a follow. Would always love to be able to share this with more people. And they're like, I have been known to do other speed games. It's just this game has been like consuming my life for the past year. So other stuff will get showcased eventually, I guess. But yeah, always happy to show this to new people, meet new people interested in this game and other games, whatnot. You can also visit my speedrun.com profile at the same username to see what other games I have ran, and then you can like come into my stream and say, hey, when are you going to run this game again? And I can be like, I don't know, maybe. So yeah, should be fun.
Everybody go and watch the
everyone
Barney
very
the
much.
Dinosaurs hide and seek run.
Oh my god.
We did have one last donor that I wanted to read with you present. It was from Gray and Cavet, or Cavet.
Of course it was. Thanks, guys.
Play perfectly and make no mistakes. Taters, Gray, and Cavet. I didn't unfortunately get an elegant opportunity to read that during the run, but the sentiment is all the same. But yeah, thank you to both of you for taking time out of your day to support the marathon and the cause and all that good stuff. And we are going to get this one sent over to our next run. With that, yeah, any last sort of closing words at all from either of you?
Just... Go ahead, Stalo, sorry.
Just play the Boktai games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Play the Boktai games if you're interested in the runs. It's, you know, same old spiel everyone says. The leaderboards have the Discord attached. Like, hop in, ask questions. People in this game, like I say, very dedicated. So, yeah, always happy to help people out. And, yeah, thank you guys very much for the opportunity. And I'll let you get set up for the next game. Good luck to all runners on their offerings that they have coming up.
Fantastic. And with that, I bid you both adieu. Much love. Bidum and Bidum. Excellent. I love both of those guys. And I love the runner coming up next as well. Let's get that sorted there. Excellent. Okay, so we have just about everything set up to kick it over to our next run. Setup for this one should be relatively quick. So we will be back momentarily with Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster by Captain of the Dorks. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back in a moment.